Welcome, everybody. My name is Calvin Correli, founder and CEO of Simplero. I have with me today Amy Crane to talk about her journey as an entrepreneur. Amy is a phenomenal entrepreneur. She is a member of Simplero, and we've connected that way through. She helps a bunch of phenomenal knowledge creators, coaches, and other entrepreneurs with their Facebook ads marketing. So straight up, that's what she does, and she does a great job at it. We are right on the cusp of hiring Amy to work with us as well. I'm very interested in that. But aside from that, she's a friend, she's a trusted advisor for us, and she's just a phenomenal human being and entrepreneur. So I'm excited to talk to her today. And as always, we're going to talk about the journey, the inner journey of entrepreneurship, and how all the challenges and struggles that we had to overcome. There's so many stories out there which like, yay, success. And it can be so hard sometimes for regular people like us to relate to, right? Like, Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Steve Jobs, and they're phenomenal entrepreneurs, and it's great and good for them, right? But it can be a little hard to relate to sometimes. So, we want to get into the meat of those stories and how we've, overcome stuff to inspire you to how you can overcome stuff in your life. So with that, welcome, Amy. If you want to just give us a quick highlight of your sort of track record, and then just get into it. You were just about to get before.
I know. I was like, oh, you asked me a question, I'm ready to go. I got it. No. So I have been, this business is 8 years old. It just turned 8 years old. So I've been running Facebook ads. We have an ad agency, mostly like course creators, right, that we work with. Before that, I also had another business. It was a retail business, brick and mortar. It failed miserably, and I made a lot of mistakes with that. Learned a lot about what I wanted to do differently. But, I feel like this journey of being an entrepreneur, I always wanted to have my own business. I was like, oh, I have my own business.
Always?
Oh, as a kid, I was like, I want to have my own business. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I was like, I want to have my own business. That'll give me the freedom to do all the things that I want to do.
Got it. Of course, where did that come from? Were your parents entrepreneurs? I feel like a lot of people, it's not even something that's really on their radar.
Yeah, my stepdad owns a very successful landscape business, so I saw him running his business. But it was just, I also just knew I didn't want to just get up and go to a job in a cubicle, work at the bank. That just felt like that was going to crush my soul. And I did do that, and I hated it. Right? Yeah. But I saw a lot of the good sides that come with owning a business. And it's not until you actually get into it that you're like, oh, okay. I actually don't know what I'm doing. I'm messing up left and right. And just really getting comfortable with failure. I think that that's been the biggest thing is I was always so scared to fail. And when my first business failed, miserably, I was like, oh, okay, but I'm still alive. It didn't kill me. I'm still here.
Right. So when you're afraid of failing, what were the specifics? What was the story in your head? If I fail, then what? I know it's probably not conscious, but if you drill into it, what was it?
Well, it's oh my God, people are going to think I'm a failure.
And then what?
Yeah. Right. And then what? They're not going to want to be friends with me, or they're not going to want to be around me. I don't know. It's I just didn't want to be failure. I also felt like if I failed at this, my whole life was ruined somehow. It was just this massive thing that I felt like I would never recover from. And maybe it's because I was just so young.
For me, a lot of the times, my mind will go to no one will like me, and I'll die miserable and alone. Yeah. The thing, right? I'll get old, and there'll be no one, and it'll just be me and sad.
Me and my cats, right? That's it. And so, and that's totally what it was. I was I didn't lose any friends. My family still loved me. It wasn't.
Did you find the opposite ever? That as you got more successful, you actually lost friends?
I guess, there have been people that have come in come and gone, but I don't know if I've like lost friendships over. I'm also very lucky that, some of my very close friends also have their own businesses. And so, some of them actually, like our social media person was like a good friend. She started a social media business and she does all of our social media and has for years. So in a sense, I feel like I've created a community around it, but I don't know if I've lost friends. Maybe some people that there's been distance, but it wasn't like a blow up.
I know for me, that was like, I felt so wrong and insecure and just like wrong for many things, but one of them for being like unsuccessful, like a failure, right? And then I was like, when I'm really successful and I make a lot of money, then they're all going to just come flocking to me.
Be my friend.
Hero. And like, that did not happen at all. On the contrary, I really feel like there is like, because I got into internet marketing and I was selling courses and the whole marketing thing. And I think, especially in Denmark, where I'm from, it just pushed a lot of people away that they're like, oh, no, this is too pushy. It's too American. It's too whatever. And I got sucked in by that. And then like I had other people who were like, I bought your stuff and it was legit. It was the shit. And I was like, oh no, I'm terrible. And I should never have done this. And like, I had deep crises around that. Like, yeah.
Oh, and I mean, and I've definitely had, like selling stuff. And I think like creating courses and selling courses, there's a lot of, and I just think in general, being an entrepreneur, there's a lot of that imposter syndrome. Like, am I really that good at this? Like, even though I've been doing it for a while, I mean, and I feel like in this world, 8 years, I mean, it's not a long time, but it's a long time in like internet time, I feel like. But I still am like, oh, am I good at this? I also thought that like, as I hit certain levels and certain milestones, I'd be like, oh, I've got this. Like, but it's like, there's something new every day. I'm like, oh, I don't have this. I've got to go learn something or work on something or figure something out. It's like, it's always changing.
Yeah.
Too.
Have you, is like abundance mindset, scarcity mindset, is that something that you've thought of explicitly?
Oh, sure. Of course. Right. And journaling. And I mean, it's always something that comes into play. I mean, I'm not like super woo woo, but I do think that like where your energy goes, I'm a little woo. I'm not like just going to sit here and meditate and wait on it to like show up in my bank account.
So the question is, are you woo or woo woo or woo woo woo?
I guess I'm just woo.
Right.
But I do believe, you know, like what you're paying attention to, where you're focusing, like things are going to show up. Right. But yeah, I mean, and I think, mindset is just always something to be working on. I don't think it's something like we're ever there with it.
No,
you know, like, so.
I mean, the day we are is the day that we're dead, right? Yeah. It's funny because I've noticed, like, I've definitely worked a lot on abundance mindset and overcoming scarcity. And recently I keep discovering new areas where I'm like, oh, there's scarcity mindset there, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a piece of scarcity mindset. And like, I think also because just like for me, I grew up and I got really good at computers and software because I was so emotionally broken and I was terrified of other human beings because they would bully me and make me say things that would make me, they would say things that would make me feel really bad. Yeah. And so like, I just retreated to computers. And so there's still that, like, you know, there's still some wounds there. That come up with people. Yeah.
I mean, I think business, being an entrepreneur, it's like any of those things that are there for all of us, it's going to magnify it, right? Or bring it back up, or it's going to show up like in those places. And sometimes like when you don't expect it either.
Say more about that.
I mean, I think it's just some days you'll be going along and you're like, I've got this, I'm doing great. And then something will happen and it's just, it catches you off guard. Like you said, you'll find like scarcity mindset in certain places. I'm trying to think of an example. But yeah, and it'll like take you back to like, oh, this is coming from this place, like where you had an experience earlier in life where maybe you felt like you weren't enough, or, you know, like even when I got into this business, because my first business had failed, I had so much, like I had to work through on like money and like figuring out how to get comfortable with money and managing money and saying no to things. Cause those were just things that like I didn't do in the business. I thought, well, if I just spend, like the people will come to the store, it'll all work out. Right. And I would say yes to things because I wanted people to like me. Right. So I would buy certain brands or certain lines because like I wanted them to like me. I wanted them to like my store. I wanted to like, you know, be in that group. But that actually wasn't like what was good for the business.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do specifically to change or challenge or overcome that money mindset?
So I think anytime something comes up, like anytime I'm thinking about investing in anything in my business, I really have to sit down and ask myself, like, is this something, like, how do I feel? It's more like, one of the big things is just like, how does it feel? Like in my stomach, like in my chest, does this feel like the right thing? And like, what are the reasons like why I'm really doing this? Is this because I actually think it's like the next step, or, you know, is it because it's something flashy and shiny and it sounds cool, right? So I've had to learn to really like trust my gut a lot more. Like the times I haven't, that's when I've gotten myself into trouble, or I've, you know, made decisions that weren't the best.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'll share like a specific example for me. I was like, so for me, the part of like, you know, I'm comfortable with making product, but when it comes to marketing and spreading the word, that's still something that I'm a little uncomfortable with, and where like, and where that's where my scarcity mindset kicks in, is like, oh, it's hard, and like there aren't like scarcity of like people who will want to buy whatever it is that I have to offer, or just like be interested in following and that kind of stuff, right? That's where my scarcity mindset is. Like, I just noticed that. I was like, recognized that the other day. I'm like, wait, whoa. Like,
yeah, but I think that's the thing. And I mean, that we all kind of run up against. It's like at some point, people are not going to want to, like, I've reached everyone that wants to learn about Facebook ads, right? And I also think that's why I got into ads, is because to me, I could run ads and reach a lot more people without me actually having to like show up and get in front of people, if that makes sense. It's like,
yeah. You let the computers and machines do it.
I'm letting it do the thing. People can see my ads. Like, I'm not having to get on social media and dance and post.
Right. And it kind of gets a little impersonal that way, or like, it's not so up and close. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's another thing. I mean, you know, I think too, in my business, deciding how much to share, what to share. Like, I'm not an oversharer. Like, I don't share like all the little things like going on in my life. So that's something else, is like finding those stories to like connect and share. But it's like, it just feels so vulnerable and like scary. Yeah.
I definitely lean on the side of oversharing.
But like, I connect with people when people share. I'm like, yes, tell me more. Like, I love hearing it. But when it's time for me to share, I'm like, it's not that interesting, you know, or it's not that cool.
Yeah, for me, I don't do it for interesting and cool. I do it because just all the pain that I went through, and if I can just, like, back then, right, if I knew that someone who's as successful as I am today went through some of the same, you know, doubts and, you know, questions and challenges and internal like debates and depression and all the stuff that I went through, that would have been good validation that it doesn't. My big fear was that all of the internal turmoil that I had meant that I was fundamentally flawed in some way.
Right.
That meant I was never going to be enough or good enough or make it or okay or whatever. And so that's really what I want to put out there. Hey, you are okay. It's normal. It's like, doesn't mean not everybody has it, but doesn't mean you're broken.
Well, and I think we look at, successful entrepreneurs or whoever it is that you look up to and you're like, oh, they've got it together, right? Mm-hmm. And they've just kind of always had it figured out. And then when we don't have it together, we don't have it all figured out or, whatever that is, then it's like, oh, can I do this? Mm-hmm. Am I allowed to do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to change tracks here a little bit. So, what was your thought process when you started this business? Like, were you worried about like whether you were going to make it? Were you skeptical?
Yeah. So the whole reason I decided to start this business. So I went from retail, which just had like a ton of overhead, like working 7 days a week, being in a store, like really being tied to it. And so I wanted to go like the complete opposite. I was like, well, what can I do that's going to be different? And so in between like the store closing and this, I actually got a job working for a business coach. And that was like my first introduction into this world. And I was like, oh, okay, well, this is like the complete opposite of what I was doing. I can make my own hours. I can work from my computer. Like I don't have to work holidays and weekends anymore. So like I saw, and like there's no overhead. Like I could just bootstrap this. I could start this business and let's just see where it goes. So that was a huge relief for me to be able to start this business, like just how it felt, because I knew, well, what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm not going to be in a ton of debt if this doesn't work. I'm just going to have to go get a job. With the store, there was debt. There was having to close a business. There was a lot that came with that. So this just felt very different. Now, of course, like once I got into it, it obviously was a lot harder. There's a lot more to learn and figure out and all those pieces. But like the shift of just the energy, like thinking about this business versus my other bit was just like completely different. So I wasn't, and I think because I'd already failed, I was like, well, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Fail again. You don't know.
Fail again.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that's such a good point, right? Because that is like, we continuously fail, like, so much, all the time. And then you learn and you move on. So you said something that I wanted to double click on, which was, about all the things that there were still to figure out. Because I feel like there are a lot of people who come into the course creator business, the world, that I don't know if it's because someone has been telling them a lie or it's just human nature or what it is, but it feels like there are a fair number of people who come into this world just like thinking it's going to be super easy, but the reality is there's a ton of things that you just have to figure out. Like, how do you name and price and sell and market and convert and like copywriting and delivering, and how do you put a curriculum together? There's just so many pieces to it, really. So what do you think is the difference between someone like you who figured it out and then people who don't figure it out and get overwhelmed? Like, what is that mindset attitude difference? And
I mean, I think one thing, so I did see like in this world, it was like, oh, you should have a 10K month, like your first like 90 days in business or whatever. And I was just like, sure, some people may do that, but like, is that actually realistic? Like, just because there's so much that goes in to being in business, and you've got to lay those like foundational pieces. But I still remember, like, because I didn't have any clients like the first 6 months, and I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not getting this? But I was like laying the groundwork, and I knew that if I could just keep putting like one foot in front of the other and like just try things, like giving myself permission to try and fail and like to see where that would take me. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But when I like started to approach it that way, like, well, let's just try it and let's give it this long. And if it doesn't work, fine, it doesn't work. But if it does work, great. Like, we'll keep doing that thing. But, you know, that, I mean, but still, like, it's still just like a hard road. And it can be frustrating when you don't hit goals or when it feels like other people are going faster than you or like flying by you or just like it looks so easy for them. And you're just like banging your head on the desk, like, why is this not working? Mm-hmm. Right. But sometimes it's not that it's not working. It's just that you're getting there.
What was the turning point for you?
So like, as far as like starting to get clients in business.
Mm-hmm.
And confidence. So this was like the little experiment where like I was building my list, but like I wasn't doing anything with my list. Like I didn't know what to say to my list. And I just said, I'm going to show up and do a weekly webinar every week. I'm going to show up for 30 minutes and I'm just going to talk about Facebook ads. And we'll just see if anybody shows up. But I knew, one, it gave me something to do, like to email to my list and let them know, hey, I'm here. Two, it gave me practice, like showing up and presenting and people seeing me. And so I said, I'm just going to do this every week for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. And let's see what happens. And if nobody shows up, and it was just like my mom and my best friend on the first webinar, and that was fine. But people started to show up, and by the end of that 6 weeks, I had a client or I had a couple clients, and then I kept doing it, and it got so much easier. So a lot of this is just like practice. You're just practicing, and it'll come.
I love the way of thinking about it, where you focus on the inputs, not the outputs, right? Yeah. For you, that's exactly what you're saying you're doing. You're doing, I'm going to show up every week and deliver training to my list on a webinar. That's the input. That's what I can control. And then just trust that the output's going to come at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have that much control over the output, right? Or like what's going to come because of like the work that we're doing. So, and I think about people going through launches and how stressful it is to do a launch and, you know, but part of it is just like showing up and doing it and getting that practice and learning from it and then letting go of that end result, like whatever it is, which isn't always easy to do.
No. And I mean, you let go, but there has to be a time frame, right? You could presumably be doing, like, you could show up and do a webinar every single week and just like be so bad at it or like, do it so wrong in some way that it doesn't work. But the likelihood that you do that is so small, right? Because you're going to show up every week and there's going to be some people there. And if not, every week you're going to try to do better, right? So you're going to be better at coming up with a topic that people are interested in and get better at pitching it to your people and better at delivering it. And it's like, so we just keep getting better at all the things, all the inputs every single week. It's almost impossible that you're not going to get there at some point, right? Yeah. The only reason you wouldn't is that you're like, you die or you're like seriously disabled in some way, which most people aren't.
It was, so I showed up. Yeah. And like the first few that I didn't even make an offer. I didn't even do a pitch. And then I finally decided to pitch a free 30-minute call. And I was so nervous, like just saying, hey, if you want to get on a free 30-minute call with me. And I remember just that feeling. But then people got on calls with me but it got easier and it did get easier. So you're right. It's like practicing those pieces and then seeing how it all comes together. And now like doing webinars, like I love doing webinars. I love doing trainings now. Like it's easy for me.
That's so cool. So what was the lowest point in this journey?
Oh God. I mean, I think like one of the hardest things that's now has been, so we grew really fast over the last 2 or 3 years in like hiring and building a team. And I think one of the hardest things for me in this whole process is, I mean, the whole hiring process and building a team, I feel like there's so much to learn and it's so hard. So making mistakes, like hiring the wrong.
What were some of the biggest mistakes that you made there, and what are the processes or principles that you've derived from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like hiring the wrong person, someone that was, incredibly talented and really amazing, but it just wasn't the right role or the right fit, even though they were amazing. I also think it's learning as a leader to like let go and let people do what they're good at. For so long, you're doing a lot of the things yourself, and then having to let go and say, okay, this person's actually better at doing this than me, and I don't need to be involved in like every little piece or decision. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think I've learned so much about like hiring is not just like throwing up a job description, interviewing and hiring someone you like, right? And then the team dynamics, like how, when you bring someone new in, how are they going to get along with like your current team? And it's just like, it's a lot. So yeah, so I feel like I let people down by making wrong hires, or not like supporting people or having those support systems in place to let people like do what they needed to do to be good at their job. Mm-hmm. So I've learned a lot from that.
So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, because it's, it's someone's, it's their livelihood. It's their, it's impacting a lot of things. It's not just, I'll bring you on my team and let's see how this goes, right? There's a lot of like implications that come with that. So like really having to learn how to do that in a way that we're making sure it's the right fit for everybody and people feel supported. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So what have been some of the keys, would you say, that have allowed you to create the business that you have, and also like similarly with the clients that you're working with? Like, what are some of the things that you're seeing that makes it work?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the things that make it work, I mean, I feel like it's like, it really comes down to the basics. Like, I feel like everyone's kind of chasing these like flashy marketing strategy, but it's like, it really comes down to like those like core pieces, like being consistent, I think, in your business, whether that looks like, I mean, consistent in your marketing, consistent in emailing, consistent in how you show up. I think being really clear on like what your voice and your messaging and like what makes you different in the market. Because there are a million people that run Facebook ads, right? Like there's tons of ads managers out there. You could go hire anyone to run your Facebook ads. So like, why would someone want to work with us? Like what makes that different? So really figuring out what our clients wanted as far as working with an agency that like they weren't getting from other agencies, or that just kind of made our approach a little bit different.
So how did you go about that specifically, and what did you find out?
A lot of it was just listening. Like when I would get on these sales calls with potential clients and I would listen to the things they would tell me about, they had worked with other ads managers or agencies, and like these were the issues that they had, or these were the things that happened. And so I started to realize like, okay, I mean, these are things we need to make sure we have in our business as a way to support these clients, and things that we need to address so they're not worried that like we're just going to ramp up their budget on them and then send them a big bill later for 10% of their ad spend, right? Or that they're never going to hear from us. They're never going to get a report. They're not going to know what's working. So it was just listening to like what they were saying and then incorporating that into like our processes.
So is that what makes you different, or is there something deeper that's more about who Amy is and like really like letting that shine through?
I mean, I think the other thing that's different is that like the approach that we take, or that I take in general, is that I don't want to get caught up in flashy things that like work once. Like I'm all about like what's consistent, like where are we going to get the most like value for like what we're doing. So to me, like I'm all about keeping things simple. I don't like complicated things. I like
Something
for
we
everything.
like here at Somplero.
I love simple. I love easy. Like, and I think most people make things too complicated in general. So like my business, I try to keep simple. And then like how we work with clients, we try to keep it simple. But it's also because we've seen that that works really well with our clients. Because I think with ads, it's easy to get in the weeds, for sure. People want to, you can split test a million things, you could try a million different things, but coming back to like those basic, like foundational pieces that like every business needs to have in place. Yeah, so simple. Simple's better.
Simple's better.
Yeah.
All right. I'm a fan.
Even like funnels, when people are like, oh, I'm going to go build out this like complicated funnel. I'm like, I don't know if you need to do all that. Let's just keep it simple and easy.
What are some of the things that people want to do with a complicated funnel that they don't need to do?
Oh, well, I think sometimes people just they hear funnel and they think it's got to be, like we had someone come to us one time that had a funnel, an evergreen funnel built out that was like a year long, full of content, upsells, downsells. And I was just like.
So like a whole email sequence built out?
For a year.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and that's kind of an extreme example, but I think people hear funnel and they think it's got to be this long, complicated thing full of upsells and downsells, but like a funnel can be very simple. It also could be something that like you can add on to like as you go. Like you don't have to figure it all out at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
selfishly, I'm curious, like what role has Somplero played in your business life?
Oh, I mean, Somplero is everything for me. So I started on Somplero. I switched I don't remember why, went to a couple other platforms and came back to Somplero. And I knew I should have never left. And so for the majority of my business life, I've been on Somplero. I think I was only maybe away for like 6 months or a year, maybe. I don't know.
What made you come back?
When or why?
Why? What made you come back?
Oh my God, because I hopped to a couple different platforms, Odgeport, Kajabi, or ClickFunnels. I don't think Kajabi was around then. And I was just like, this is a nightmare. Like setting this stuff up. And I just remember there were a couple things like having one of the things that just drove me crazy was like, they didn't have a process to just follow up with like failed payments, but that was something that like Somplero just did. And I was like, I've got to go set up this complicated funnel and like hire someone to do it. Like this should just be easy. So Somplero, I mean, it's been so important because like one, I don't have to worry about it. Like I don't have to worry about like tech breaking. I also don't have to worry if I want to create something new, like I can just do it and it takes no time at all, right? I also don't have to worry because like all of our payments and just like everything, it's like automated, so it's easy. We get notified if a payment does fail, so we can, and I know that Somplero has like a follow-up process, which is nice. So it's just like, I don't have to worry about it, which is good. Like,
yeah.
I don't have to think too much about that side of my business, where I see a lot of people get into these places where they've got amazing offers. They've got, great courses and programs, but like the tech and all the different platforms they're trying to use to get to talk to each other, and it's holding them back. It's like keeping them from, well, one, just like seeing what's going on with their funnel. And then two, it's like they're having to hire, like if they want to make a change in their funnel, they've got to get a tech person. They've got to wait to get all this stuff sorted out. And obviously like that holds you back, I think. So it's just not, like I said, I like simple, I like easy. I don't have the patience to deal with most of these platforms. And Simplero, it's like I don't even have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can just send a link. For new clients, like even our one-on-one clients, we send the link, the contract signed through Simplero. It's automated, like it's easy. We don't have to worry about it. Onboarding, everything. So I can do everything in there. Like I'm trying to think if there's like we don't really use any other platforms.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you work with other course creators and other types of creators, right? That are using, some of whom are using other platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always try to get them to move over to Simplero. So I just think there are just so many basic functions that I think as an online business that you want your platform to do, that I am still amazed that some of these platforms don't do them or it's too complicated to set up. So, I feel like I can also just log into Simplero and have a very clear picture of where my business is. As far as I love the dashboard, like sales. It's easy for me to figure out what products are working, pages are converting. I mean, it's just so much easier than some of these other platforms and I've told you, when we have to get in there to try to pull reports for Facebook ads for other funnels, or other platforms, it's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
All right. Well, love hearing that. So what's your top advice for people starting out in this type of business?
I think my top advice is going to be, oh my God. One, I feel like just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just keep doing the things like we were talking about. It's going to get easier. You're going to feel more confident. Most people aren't going to come out of the gate having a 6-figure launch on their first product, right? So it's all about those little daily actions, and then just giving yourself some space and some grace as you go through this. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to fail, things aren't going to work, and that's okay. And I think conversations like this and talking more about the things that don't work or things that don't go right in our business is so important, because we all run into it, right? It happens.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, what would you have most wished that someone had said that you'd heard, right, on when you were kind of at your low point, or when you were confused about where to start or which direction to go in?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I feel like there have been times where I just needed someone to tell me, just take a step back. You're too close. You just need to take a step back, take a break, come back with fresh eyes and a fresh perspective. So I feel like that's been one thing. I always just try to push through everything. If there's a problem, I'm just going to push through it. But sometimes you need to take that step back to really see it.
Yeah.
And so that's probably been the biggest lesson. And also having patience, because you want things to happen now, or I do, right? It's you want things to happen now, and that's just not, things take time.
Yeah.
So
I can totally relate to that. It's that insatiable hunger and drive, which is really good and really important, right? I think, I always think that our desire is a God-given drive inside of us to go places, but it's also easy to use that to destroy ourselves and be unhappy with who we are and who we are. And that's not helpful. That's harmful.
Yeah.
And so it's being extremely driven and hungry, and at the same time extremely content and happy and patient. right?
Yeah.
That getting that balance right, or that conflict, that tension's always going to be there. But that's the core. Yeah.
Yeah. And having, go ahead. I was going to say, the other thing is that really for me too, is like learning, and this is something I'm just starting to learn, is like that my worth isn't tied to like how productive I am. Like that it's okay. And like, just because, just really having to like, just because I'm not being productive or like what I'm producing, like I need to let go of that. Like there's still value and worth in just being.
100%, right? And that's I think that's so important, because if you think about it, we all have 24 hours a day, right? And it really is how we use that time, but it's not about how productive we are. That can be a point of leverage sometimes, but it's usually much more in making good decisions.
Yeah.
And if we're just heads down all the time, like being productive, we don't have the space to actually make good decisions. Exactly what you were saying before, like taking that step back. Yeah. And like if I tie my worth to how much I, run in the treadmill as a little mouse in the mouse, like that keeps me away from actually making the good decisions.
Right.
And for me also, like my worth, uncoupling my worth from my results, right? From my, like my money making abilities or any of that stuff, right? My quote unquote success, even though I don't like to think of success that way, but that's been huge for me, because then like, it would be like, my pattern would be like, I'm unsuccessful, therefore I feel worthless, therefore I don't have anything to offer, therefore I'm going to continue to be unsuccessful. Yeah. Plus, I had this victim mindset going that was like, the reason I'm unhappy and unsuccessful is because of this, and the other, like all these things, my parents, my upbringing, my friend group, or my whatever. And so now I have to remain unsuccessful and unhappy in order to prove that these people really wronged me. So, that's a recipe for a very unhappy life. And I really struggled with that for a long time. Yeah.
I mean, it comes back to like all of these, owning a business or being an entrepreneur, it's so much personal development. I mean, it's all of these things that shape us, but it also impacts like how we are daily, like in our business.
Yeah.
And reflecting on that.
What did you say?
I said, and just in reflecting on that, like when things come up. Yeah. Yeah.
The like that inner work, the head trip stuff, if you will, like the work on mind, thoughts and feelings and spiritual. What is your spiritual life like? What is spirituality to you? How does that factor in?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not religious. I'm a little spiritual. Like I'm still like that woo kind of level, I mean, I think there are bigger things at work, but yeah, I'm still a one level kind of woo. I'm very like practical and also like need to see things, you know?
Is like purpose a word that resonates for you?
Is what?
Purpose.
Yeah, sure. And I do like, there are things that have happened in my life where I'm like, wow, there's something bigger at work here, or like,
what's the story?
Some kind of like intervention there. Oh God, I'm trying. Let's see. Like I can never come up with stories on the spot. I mean, I think maybe even something is like coming across the job posting for the business coach that I went to work with. I mean, I was living in Asheville, North Carolina, which is a tiny town. Like
is that the town where everybody carries a yoga mat?
Yeah, it's a very cool town, very mountainy, but like what are the odds that she was there and she was like, because I don't know if I would have found, I mean, maybe I would have found this world
right
if I had it, but I think it would have taken me a lot longer. Right. I'm I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's been so many throughout life, and I'm like, oh, that's why that didn't work out, and this did work out.
Yeah. All right. Well, Amy, thank you so much. Great to hang with you again.
Yeah.
You're a pleasure, a joy to.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Let's get to chat.
Yeah, it was definitely my pleasure. Where can people find you and hire you to run their ads for them? Because they totally should.
Yes, of course. So sociallabmarketing.com is where they can find us. Lots of good stuff there about how to work with us, freebies, everything's built on Simplero. So go check it out.
Oh, nice. And I will say from my perspective, like Amy is someone that I 100% trust. And so if you are in the course creator business, I cannot recommend her warmly enough. And I think you're going to find that it's probably a lot more inexpensive than you might think it is. It's a really premium product. I think you should be charging a lot more than you are, but you're providing a phenomenal service. I know like the number one thing that everybody in this business needs, right, is like everybody in business needs is we need more clients, we need more customers, or we want more clients and more customers. So that's what you help people with. You've been doing it for many years, very successfully with many clients. So yeah, strongly recommend that you check out Social Lab Marketing and get in touch with Amy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for all the people who watch and who need No, but that's exactly the thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's so easy for us as entrepreneurs to again, the imposter and feel oh, I shouldn't toot my own horn and I shouldn't be but what about all the people who are struggling to get their course selling because of all the scammy and bad agencies out there, or they're just scared of even getting into running ads, and they've heard stories about how it's really expensive. iOS 14 makes it impossible, all these things, right? And so they don't get their courses out there, and so these people are suffering. But not only them, but also all the people that they're there to help with their stress, or learning to play ukulele, or getting their relationship sorted, or losing whatever it is that they help people with. All those people who need that are now also suffering, right? Yeah. So I think we've gotten marketing has gotten a really bad rap, right? And everybody's yay, when iOS comes up and they're allow this app to track. It's no, do not allow. It's oh, I don't It's gotten this really bad rap, but when you look at it from the other side, it really is innovative product creators of every sort. It's now harder for them to reach the people who are going to love that product, and which means that fewer people are going to put creative products in the market and run that risk, and it's more expensive for them to do so. So now they need to raise the price of the products, and they're going to help fewer people, right? So, I'm a huge fan of what you do and the way that you help people, and I think you're playing a really important role.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I think and I think it can be done in a way that feels in alignment with your business, right? Like you were just saying, it doesn't have to feel spammy or bro-y.
No.
Yeah.
No. I think the people, the kind of people who are going to sit through and watch everything we've talked about so far, right? They're not really the scammy crowd, right?
That's not.
I think that's pretty safe to say. There are people that are here to serve, right? That's literally the title. I don't know if you ever read my book, but the title of my book, Show Up and Serve, right? That's what we come here to do, and that's my philosophy is that a lot more people are going to see my marketing than are ever going to buy any of my products and offers.
Yeah.
And so I want my marketing to be transformational for people in itself, right? I want people to get value and results just from the marketing. Yeah. And that's how we have marketing is a huge way of how we have impact.
I love that. because too many people, it's just like the numbers, right? It's like, oh, it's a numbers game. Just focus on the numbers. But like, yeah, you want to help the people, like whether or not they're buying something from you, right? You still want people to walk away with something.
Yes.
And I think that's amazing. Yeah.
Lift their spirits just a little bit, right? Like
Yeah.
if we can, everybody who gets into contact with you one way or the other, is just elevated a little bit.
Yeah.
Somehow vibrationally, if you want to go woo, or just like a little bit happier, a little bit lighter from just being, touched by you, then we're doing good work.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was so good to see you.
You bet. Likewise. And keep doing your good work.
All right.